Hello everyone, today I'm going to be answering one of man's greatest questions. In what order do you rank 100 of the most common symbols used in English and then also the Greek letters just because they look cool? And I would pretend like I have some way of properly ordering them and ranking them, but it's really just complete personal opinion. I mean, they're symbols. There's not much you can rank them off of. Let's just start. In place 100, the worst symbol on this list is definitely the left brace. It just has so much wrong with it. It always looks horrible when you write it. It's basically never used, and when it is used, it's used to group groups of brackets, which are then grouping groups of parentheses, which are grouping groups of numbers in things like algebra. It's just too much. You should never need to see this. You never need to use it. It looks horrible. It's pointless. Definitely the worst symbol. And you could probably guess the next one. It's the right brace. This one's just slightly better because when you see this, at least you know the problem's over, not just starting like the left one. Now moving on to the real symbols, we have the trademark. Also pretty bad. We could basically just get rid of the trademark symbol and I don't think anyone could care. It's just horrible, man. It's just a T and an M in a circle. It's annoying to write, and it just doesn't look good. They could have picked something useful, but they just got Mr. Lazy to come up with a symbol today and just thought, oh, trademark, TM, circle it. Oh, oops. Yeah, and that seems like all the effort they're putting into it, so I'm not going to put any effort into ranking it. Now we have the backslash. I mean, it's not horrible, other than the fact that it literally has no purpose. It doesn't look that good, and you never need to use it in any math, English, history, any sciences. Like, it just is never used. So because it basically has no purpose again, it ends up near the bottom of F tier. Now we have the first letter, U. First of all, it's really annoying to write with a tail. They could have left the lowercase just being a smaller version of the uppercase. And yes, I'm ranking all these only lowercase letters, same with the Greek letters, just because I had to pick one or the other, and I chose lowercase. Deal with it. Yeah, so the tail just ruins the U, and second of all, it represents the sound like or like it just doesn't sound good. Like that sound could disappear, and I don't think anyone would care. So again, F tier. Now we have the copyright sign. Basically the same thing as the trademark sign, except a C, which looks a little bit better and is only one letter instead of two, so I guess it's slightly better, but still, for the same reason, is absolute dog. Moving on, we have the semicolon. Again, completely pointless. You could just use comma and then and or but or. You can just use a comma and then like a word to replace this. You do not need a semicolon. You never should use it. Basically ever, whether you're doing professional writing or just writing a text or something, nobody ever uses a semicolon, and anyone who does is basically borderline psychopathic. So again, pointless symbol. Now we have the letter 6. Maybe I'm being a little harsh on the letter 6, but again, it looks kind of bad. It represents the most forgettable digit. It just sucks, to be honest, and so it ends up in F tier. And at the very top of F tier, we have the letter F. Kind of fits. F in F tier represents the sound f, which is very annoying. There's lots of no-no words with this word, so you don't want to be saying those. And yeah, I guess that's it. F just kind of sucks. Moving on to D tier, we have the and sign right here. I know it technically has some professional name, like fancy, but I completely forgot what it is. And I don't really care. It's literally harder to write than the word and. Again, it serves no purpose. Who would write this squiggly mess? They could have made it way simpler, and they decide to make a mess for no reason. I mean, it also just kind of stole its whole look from the letter 8, which is a very good, or the number 8, letter 8, what am I saying? The number 8, which is a very good number, and it just added this tail and made it all janky, and it just completely ruined it. It's like 8 after being completely murdered and stabbed 20 times. Moving on, we have the pound symbol. Again, way too complicated for what it's actually supposed to represent. This is supposed to be an L, but why is there so many bends and twists? They could have just made it down straight, like, make it simple. I don't know why they made it so complicated, and also it's British, so that instantly brings it down even more. So again, bottom of D tier. Now we have the dash. Kind of pointless again. Nobody should really be using dashes. The words with dashes could just get rid of the dash. You could just make the word combinations with dashes one word, or just add a space. I feel like you don't really need the dash symbol, and it just complicates English for no reason again. So, D tier. The colon. I mean, it looks a little bit better in the semicolon, so it gets a little bit higher up. It's also a little bit more useful. You can use it in lists like number 1, colon, number 2, colon. But again, the parenthesis, just specifically the right parenthesis, just completely outshines it. Anytime you're using a colon, you could just use a parenthesis instead, and it looks smoother. And if you're using professional writing, when you can't use a parenthesis, again, you shouldn't be using a colon anyway. So, colon, pretty pointless and just doesn't look good. Now we have the quote symbol. My main issue with this is it doesn't actually look that bad, but this and this should be completely changed. This single quote and this double quote line should be changed. This is for a quote inside of a quote, and this is just for a quote. But why didn't they make the first one, the single dash, the single little swoop, be the outside quote, be the single quote? Then the double could be for the quote inside of the quote, and then you could even add a triple for a quote in a quote in a quote, and you could just keep doing that. It would make so much more sense, but instead they made it twice as complicated for no reason. So it just goes in D tier. There's just a big fumble, absolutely generational fumble. Moving on, we have the first Greek letter, iota. It is so simple and so complex at the same time. Why is there this bump of a tail right here? Again, pointless. Make it a line. Make it a line. A lot of Greek letters have this problem, and I'm going to be bringing it up a lot later. But if you want a simple symbol, which this seems to be going for, iota seems to be trying to be simple, why did they add a little whoop, and why does it look so weird? Again, just looks horrible, so D tier. Moving on, we have the letter X. Again, it represents kind of an annoying sound, and it has no function. Its only two sounds it ever makes are Z and X, which can just be replaced with Z and KS. You can just mix the sound of K and the sound of S. I can't even find K. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, right there. K and S, which is here. You can just mix these two, which are both good letters, and you can replace X. You really don't need X in English. Pointless. Again, just no use. Moving on, we have the brackets. Kind of a similar problem. I'm actually going to start with this bracket, then this bracket. Similar problem to the braces, but a lot easier to write, so they move up an entire tier. But again, kind of pointless. Just use a parenthesis. Brackets do have one purpose, which is showing like ranges in math, but you want to include the number at the end of the range. So like it's a little bit useful, but not enough to really justify it. It also kind of looks a bit janky, not very smooth, just generally sucks. Moving on, we have the letter O, which is here. O, it's simple, but in a bad way for me. There's some really simple symbols which I could do it well, but the O just doesn't seem to do it well. It's a bit elongated. Specifically, this image is not a very good representation, actually, of the letter O, and it's just too plain for me. And again, it represents kind of an annoying sound with O, or it also can be used for the sound sometimes. It's just annoying. I don't know why. Moving on. Number 4, the second number, a lot better than 6, like generationally improved than over 6, but still just way too forgettable to put it above D tier. It might be able to go into C tier if it was a little bit simpler, if it was a little bit easier to write, but again, just looks bad and doesn't really have anything going for it. It's just way too forgettable. Now we have H. Again, way too annoying of a sound to represent, and could kind of just forget about it. One of the most forgettable letters. It's not so bad that I hate it, like F, U, and X, and O, but it's just so... It's probably the most, if not one of the most forgettable letters with really no benefit. So again, it goes at the top of D tier. Now we are going to be moving on to the C tier, which is the most filled tier, and at the very bottom, just barely making it, we have Omicron, which improved O slightly, gave it a little tilt, made it a little bit fancier looking, but basically has the same problem, so just one tier higher, and barely made it into the average C tier. Now moving on, we have the question mark. It's just too complex for its purpose. They could have simplified it again. It doesn't look very appealing for its complexity. Its little like curvedness doesn't really fit with how I feel a question should look. And that's basically it. They could switch the exclamation and question mark, and I think it would actually improve both of them, because the question mark is used way more than the exclamation mark. It's way more common, way more important, and yet it's way more complicated and looks worse for some reason. So just they used the wrong symbol, basically. Now we have the percent sign. It looks horrible, first of all. They, again, could have made this way simpler. They made it extra complicated with these circles when it really could have just been like a dash or something like that. And it just made it look worse than a regular dash. Like, they could have done a lot of different options, a lot of different things, and the fact that whoever came up with math chose this, it's really just disappointing, man. It's a disappointing symbol. So, bottom of C tier, probably not really mad like a lot of these, just disappointed, like a angry parent. Now moving on, we have new. The main problem I have with this is going to completely stem from an illogical bias, but I do not care. New is very similar to, or at least sounds like it should be similar to, the letter N. And I know that English came after Greek, but N, this is not an N, this is a V. This should be vous. This should be something like that. This should be French, like vous. Like, this is not new. Wrong name. And if you want to keep the name, wrong symbol. C tier. That's basically it. I do not care that this was made before the letter N. We are ranking this in 2025, not 1000 BC, or wait, the Greeks are much earlier than that, or not much closer to modern times than that, but I don't care. I don't know the exact date. Moving on, we have upsilon right here. Again, this looks like it's supposed to look kind of like a U, but a Y. Kind of has the same issue as iota. They made it more complicated for no reason. They could have made it look like a V or like a U, and then they had this thing. They had the whoop on the side, like, doesn't make sense. C tier. It looks at least a little bit smoother and a little bit better than some of the previous ones, but average and forgettable. Now, moving on, we have chai, or chi, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and again, I don't care. Just call it X at this point, man. That's an X. That's not a chi or a chai. I know Greek came first, and again, C tier, because what is this wiggle for? Just make it an X. Just simplify. You guys were writing on stones. I'm pretty sure the Greeks literally wrote on stone. Why did you make your symbols more complicated than they have to be? Make it geometrical, and it would have been placed so much higher, multiple probably tiers higher. If it was just like a simple X, but like a little rounded, it could have maybe even ended up in B tier. I don't know. So just generational flop again. Now we have the exclamation mark. I know when I was talking about the question mark, I made it sound like this would be a lot higher, but the main problem I have with this one isn't the actual like functionality of the symbol. It's the fact that it, again, is kind of pointless in English. I feel like after a certain like level of writing, after you stop being a third grader who like eats their own boogers, you don't really need an exclamation mark. Your language should be clear enough that you're exclaiming something or that it's exciting. And if it isn't, you're just a boring person. So yeah, it's just not, you don't need this. If you need this, go back to third grade. Kappa. Okay, curved, what is this swoop here for? Mid. Moving on, we have the degree sign. Mid. Could have made it look cooler. But, again, fine, I don't have problems with it, it just isn't cool. It's very forgettable. Moving on, C. Again, forgettable, but gets moved down a lot more. It probably would have been in B tier if it wasn't a useless symbol again. The only two sounds it makes are K and S, which are K and S, and yeah, so anything spelled with a C, it just confuses me. It just confuses English. It makes it more complicated for no reason. get rid of C. We really don't need it. Now we have the multiplication symbol. I mean, it's pretty good, but again, just a dot, so kind of forgettable, and ends up being mid C tier. Now we have the exponents, like little exponent caret. Again, pretty useless. If you're ever actually writing down this exponent caret, you are probably, again, psychopathic and have some sort of mental disorder. Just write your squared symbols above your letters. Just write, like if this is your number 6 and you want to do it squared, you can just write a little 2 up here. You don't need to put a whole caret and then write a 2. You don't need to speak calculator, or not even calculator, or calculators don't even do that anymore. That's like 1980s calculator. It's a dead symbol. Again, has no real purpose. Could be deleted, and I don't think anyone would really care other than some, I don't know, maybe computer science nerds or something that use it. B, forgettable and mid. No problems, but nothing great. It's the worst of the symbols that have the line and the swoop, like the P and the D and the Q. It's just the worst of the 4. Yeah, that's basically it. G. Why can't I? There's G. This is just not very representative. This is not what I'm actually ranking it off of. I'm ranking it off of the proper way of writing G, which is a circle and then just a circle and then a swoop below it. That's a G. This is not a G. So I don't know why people write like this, or I don't know why computers really write like this. No one actually writes like this unless you, again, are some form of psychopath. Mid, kind of forgettable, and the fact it has multiple ways of writing it that are completely different kind of pisses me off. So ends up in C tier again, and it had a lot more potential. So again, kind of disappointed more than actually mad. A lot of these C tiers are more like disappointments, kind of like Kappa again. I don't know. Now we have W. I used to like this one. I used to actually like W as a letter. I probably would have put it, if you asked me this like 3 years ago, in like high B to like low A tier. But it's just fallen off, and the main problem I have with it is I can't get over the fact it's called W. It should be called double V, or it should look like a W. It should look like, where's an omega? This is a W. This is a double V. Wrong. Okay, moving on. We have, this one is, I forgot the symbol's name. I know this. I actually know this. Wait a second. I did not know it. It's Ada. Main problem is, its uppercase looks like an H, this version looks like an N, and it's pronounced Ada, which sounds like an E. You have 3 letters in one, pick one or the other. Again, forgettable. The symbol's actually cool, just way too confusing and just frankly does not make sense. They picked the wrong symbol yet again. M. It's fine, just kind of looks like a worse N that has an extra bump for no reason. They could have picked something else instead of stealing N's whole flow, but other than that is, again, kind of mid. Now we have the slash. It is crazy how generationally better this forward slash is than backslash, and it actually has a purpose. It is the only division sign. You might have noticed I do not have the circle and then the line and then the other circle division sign, because it's that bad, I'm not even going to include it. I will not recognize its existence as an actual division sign. That is a scam made up by our elementary school teachers to, I don't know, trick us. The government's tricking us, you know. That's it. It's to lower our intelligence. It's to make us more complacent. That's the only purpose I can see for it. So the proper division sign, you know, looks decent, serves a good function, but again, a little bit too simple for me to give it any credit for having some crazy look or anything really good about it. So it ends up near the upper side of C tier, but it's not a horrible placement, just too mid to really give it anything higher. Now we have Q, the second worst of the B kind of shape-looking letters that are all flipped around and whatever, and it's just annoying of a letter. It really it's not very commonly seen in English, and when it is, it feels not necessary in most words with Qs. So it looks okay, but what it actually represents is annoyance and disappointment. It just represents a sound that lets your parents down. You know, again, just a moment of silence there for Q, for just so disappointing. Okay, we need to move on. L. It looks fine, and again, I'm not ranking it off of this. It should not have this little square here, and it should not have this bottom. It's just a line. It's an L, and the uppercase would have this, but we're ranking lowercase. It does not look like this. This looks like a 1. I don't know why this is the picture I used. L is fine, you know, not cool enough to really get any more credit in that. Gamma, this looks pretty cool, other than the fact that the loop feels not necessary. Like this feels like you're doing extra. Remember, the people who invented this were carving their letters on stone. Why do these look so flowy? Why do they look so smooth? And why do they look so annoying to write? I will never get it. N, the better version of M, but again, a little bit forgettable. I actually like N. It's a pretty decent letter, so ends up near almost the top of C tier. We only have a few more symbols in C tier, and it's fine, just nothing special. Epsilon. It looks like if you tried to turn the lowercase e into the uppercase e without actually making it uppercase. Again, what is up with this, like, flowiness? Like, you're doing too much. The Greek letters are doing too much. You'll see later in this video some examples of Greek letters doing too much that actually looks good, but these all do not look good. These Greek letters are doing extra and at the same time making themselves look worse. It's a mess, but it's not so much of a mess when it comes to epsilon to drag it any lower than near the top of C tier. Now we have the subtraction symbol. It's pretty decent, but again, just kind of a line, and doesn't have enough mystique behind it to really give it that extra points to bring it upwards for being like an epic looking line, which there is an epic looking line, but I will get to that later. Now we have omega. I'm putting it up here mainly because it kind of has the same issues as gamma and epsilon, but it first of all looks the best out of the three, and second of all represents the most intricate and unique thing. It's like supposed to be the number after infinity, but still like countably up to. It's just like infinity plus 1 is basically like omega, except infinity plus 1 is still infinity, so I'm not even sure how you get to infinity to omega. But it's cool. It represents something cool. I don't really get it, and it looks decent. Kind of like beta. Just barely missed out on the B tier, even though that's really where it should belong because of this tail. Again, you're doing too much. You brought yourself down. You really deserve to be in B tier, but I cannot allow it with this ugly tail. Now, moving on to the B tier. This is all pretty decent symbols. They're either just a little bit forgettable or a little bit too annoying to write usually, or, I don't know, some of them have their own personal issues. Moving on, we have the asterisk, which is the bottom of B tier. It's just not reasonable to write. Just use like a star instead. If anyone wants to actually write out an asterisk, you just can't. This is not something you can easily do. Other than that, it looks good, and it functions nicely. Sometimes insane people use it as the multiplication sign, but again, that's either when you are in elementary school or when you are in a mental hospital. There's no other time you ever use this as the multiplication symbol, so I'm not even going to mention that anymore. I is the next symbol. It looks okay again, but just a bit too forgettable to be placed above B tier, and B tier is still a respectable ranking. It's fine. Like, I don't really have much more to say about I don't know. There's just nothing I can really think to say. So moving on to D. It's a lot better than the Q's and the B's of the world. It's smoother to write. It feels like your pencil, this is getting more into the nitty gritty, but I kind of feel like I have to do that as I reach my way towards the top of the tier list. Once you're writing it, you bring your pencil down, you stroke down, and then you go around the loop, and then look at that, your pencil just lines up perfectly to move on to write the next letter. Like if you're writing an O after this or something, it just flows, and you can just keep writing. So it's just such a flowy letter, and it looks that much better. Solid B tier, they're respectable. Now we have theta. Again, it's just a solid letter. Like it just improved on the O so much, and on the Omicron, that line in the middle just gives it that oomph, and it also sets up your pencil again in that right spot. You're done with the O, and then you just go into the line and you just dash across and then keep writing whatever you're gonna write. And it kind of replaced X. I mean, it totally bodied X when it comes to angles. Like after, I don't know, 7th grade, you just never saw X as an angle again. It's always been theta, and that's just great, man. It's just such an improvement. Anytime anyone bodies X, I can't put them any below B tier. It's just an amazing feat, just great symbol, but not great enough to really be anywhere above B, because it is a little bit too related. It's like the better cousin your parents always compare you to, with Omicron and O. And now we have E, which is here. It actually represents a cool sound. I think this is one of our first letters that actually like the sound of E, like E or eh. Yeah, and it's not too hard to write, very flowy, and cool looking, just a little janky with this angle, and then the rest of the angles being smooth. But other than that, that's a little bit more nitpicky. Still a good letter. Now we have alpha. Similar to E, where it's ends up not actually... E ends up looking decent. This is one thing that, like, actually alpha does worse than E now that I think about this. That E looks decent when you actually write it down and not just print it, which a lot of these lower symbols kind of suffer from. They don't actually look good when you functionally try to write them, like gamma. But alpha, that it kind of suffers from this issue as well, and this is an issue that E doesn't suffer from, is that it ends up kind of looking like a dead compressed fish. When you actually try to write it, it ends up just looking like a little like blob instead of an actual A kind of figure. But when it's written properly, and once you really learn how to master your alphas, it's just that much more clean and beautiful than these previous symbols, so I still have to place it above E. But it's like a learning curve. Until you learn how to do it, it's more like a low C. It's more like down here, maybe. I'd put it like here-ish, if you are still writing it like an ugly fish. But once you get to know it, it becomes a solid B tier. Now we've got, where were we? Alpha. Okay, we have the number sign, or the hashtag, or whatever you want to call it. Again, it's good. It actually has its like place in places like social medias. You want to do like a hashtag something, or in certain usernames it actually fits. Other ones it completely ruins it. But just a little bit too much going on, a little bit too many lines. It's like a mix between 2 slashes and an equal sign. And they could have simplified it down, maybe 1 slash instead of 2, or only 1 line in the middle, or something. It needs a revamp. You could pay, I don't know, a graphic designer to redo this, and I think it would end up coming out better, unlike most signs. But still functional enough and still good looking enough to end up in a solid B tier. Now we have P, one of the best, actually the best of the half circle and line kind of grouping of letters, that being D, P, Q, and B. Represents the most interesting sound with a p, p, p kind of sound. It's just cool, easy to write, and is always there for you. You know, P seems like he'd be that friend who is never really close to you, but anytime you're really suffering or like you have a real big problem, they're always there, and they'll be there, and you can always rely on them, even though they aren't always the closest. You know, if you can kind of get it, I think most of you guys can see the connections here. Now we have K. Just ignoring these lines on the tops and bottoms. I don't know what these computer versions of these letters are doing. They're doing something crazy. But K is solid, pretty easy to write, very geometric. It's like the proper way of trying to do what a lot of these Greek letters are trying to do. It's complicated, but in a easy to write way and in a good looking way. So solid move there, K. Now we have Tau, which is here. And it actually is one of the first Greek letters that looks good and looks kind of like what it sounds like. Tau sounds like T, and it looks kind of like a T. So, is doing pretty good. And what it actually represents, too, is 2 pi, which is actually a very useful symbol, even though it's been kind of bodied by pi and just ignored by math, with the fact that, you know, 1 loop around the unit circle is only 1 tau, and it just has its own symbol instead of needing to write 2 pi. Like, pi over 2 shouldn't be a quarter of a way around a circle. That doesn't make much sense. But pi is just so much more dominant and respected, and it just looks better, so it almost brings tau down. The fact that it's supposed to outdo pi, but it doesn't anyway. It's like an underdog winning story with pi. And, you know, pi's the OG, so it just brings tau down for kind of stealing its flow and trying to do it better. But we all know who the real pro is, and we still stick with pi for a reason. Moving on, we have both the greater and less than symbols. In this way, I'm going to say the less than symbol is a little bit easier because of my English brain going from left to right. Like, it feels easier to write. Your pencil ends up in the spot where you're going to keep writing instead of way over here, and then you got to bring it over. So just barely edges it out. And, they're the Gator brothers. They kind of look like a crocodile. Nice and simple, easy to learn, but not enough standing them out to really push them up into the upper A and S tier, but still very solid marker for them. Now we have a zeta is our next letter. Now this is an example of a Greek letter which did complexity right. It did it right almost, even though it looks more complicated, it's almost easier to write. It's almost a simpler, you can just kind of it's like an S, but with a little cusp on the top. It's like cusp, and then you just do a little S, but with a really long top and a small bottom. And once you really learn it and you get it down using it properly, it seems like a cool symbol. It looks great, and it's actually surprisingly easier to write than you'd think. It almost feels easier to write than even something like a chai or chi, or, again, I'm still not sure how to pronounce it. And I still do not care. Moving on, sigma. All the Generation Alpha's favorite Greek letter. But ignoring that, because that would bring it all the way down here, in its proper usage, it's cool. It's like the way improved version of Omicron O and Theta. With the line on the top, it just adds that look that's great. And then the other version, it's kind of got two different options. This is the one I prefer, and this also looks cool. It looks like a little bit more of a deformed S, so significantly worse than S still, which is still down here. It's going to be placed much higher on the list, but solid. I mean, any letter that looks like an S is still pretty easy to write, pretty flowy, and the proper version of a sigma, it's just the way to do a circular symbol. It's the way to do it. O and Omicron definitely need to learn from sigma, 100%. Moving on, we have our first, or not our first, because we have the pound, even though arguably that doesn't even count. We have our second money symbol. We have the yen. It's okay, and it ends up being like a decent symbol. Like, I can't critique it too much. Just the two lines on the bottom, and the fact that they use a capital Y instead of a lowercase y with just one line here, the fact you need to kind of split it up, it's just too much hand emotions to write it out. It's like 1, 2, back, 3, back, 4, back, 5 lines. It's just too much movement. It does look good, but that movement, I just cannot place it any higher than B. But it is miles ahead of the pound symbol. Also, it's not British, so instantly way 2 tiers higher. And actually, near the top-ish of the B tier. It's in the top half already. Now we have Y. It's the better version of the yen sign, especially the lowercase. It's just got one line on the side instead of needing to kind of like break off on both sides. So it's nice and easy to write. You can just go do, and then a backslash kind of look, or forward slash, what am I saying? And yeah, it's solid. I, again, have no idea what these symbols are doing. I don't know why I picked these. They're annoying me so much with these lines on the top and this, like, janky curve. Nobody writes a Y like that. Just whoop and whoop. That's it, and that's what I'm ranking it off of. We have the and sign. This is like what the copyright and trademark sign could have been. This is the proper way to make a circle around a letter if you really want to do that. Or, I just said and sign. At sign. That took me way too long to register. Where you just write down your A and then just do a little whoop and then keep on going. You don't need to finish the whoop and connect it. And it's connected here. It looks great and it fits, at it with the A, and like you don't really need the T. It just seems to flow nicely. Looks great. Easy to write. Cannot complain. Now we have Rho, which completely just outdid Theta. It's arguably, or not even arguably, just definitively the better angle symbol. It looks like a P, which is a very nice, classy letter, and it's just, I don't know, superior. It's one of the greatest variables, especially for specifically angles. It's basically untouchable. It's the ultimate angle symbol, And it's like a smooth version of a P, where if you just want to write it all in one motion. And I feel like a lot of people write their P's exactly like they write their rows anyway. So it's just a great symbol. Don't have many complaints. Ends up being near the top of B tier. Now we have 2. It's been a while since our last letter. Our last letter was 4. Number. I keep mixing up the words number and letter. Jeez. Been a while since our last number. And 2 is just miles ahead. It's the only even prime number. It's nice and easy to write. A perfect mix, really, between smooth and then geometric with this nice sharp cusp here. It's really done a beautiful mix between complexity and simplicity that a lot of these previous letters have done way worse, but a lot of these letters I have not placed yet just do way better. So ends up being pretty good, but has a lot of potential. If we redid the 2, it would probably end up being worse, but it's got a chance of really shooting up to an A or S tier if somebody revamped it. Now we have 9. It's just a little bit smoother than the 2, It's a great number, and I don't really have much more to say. It represents 3 threes, which I don't know why, that just feels good in my brain, and that's about it. Now we have the single quotation mark. I'm not sure what this is actually called. I'm just calling this like a double quote and a single quote. It's just miles ahead of the double quote. It did everything right that it was trying to do. And the only downfall of this symbol is the fact it isn't the quote symbol. What it actually represents is the only real thing holding it back. If it represented a quote, it would probably be A tier. And yeah, so great symbol, but representing a quote in a quote is kind of annoying and really is disappointing again. It had so much potential and it was so close too. It's like making $1 million company and then giving it away. Why? Come on, you were right there. You could have been a millionaire if you just didn't give it away. You gave away the proper slot that you deserve to the double quotes. It shouldn't have happened. I don't know who let it happen, but very sad day in the symbol community whenever that happened. Probably 1,000 years ago or more. But again, doesn't really matter. Euro sign did what the yen did wrong correctly. It did the double dashes well, but cannot go higher than B because it uses a C symbol, and it has these 2 dashes are not aligned right. The one is a little bit longer on this side, and this one just is a little bit shorter, and it's just a little janky, but it's still a really respectable, near almost the very top of our B tier. It is the second highest, right behind R. I'll just put this here for now, and that is actually all of B tier. But because it also looks kind of like an E, it doesn't really, you need to imagine it a bit, so I think that's its one downside, but it looks like an E, but you just cut it off with a line right here. So it's like a futuristic geometric version of an E, but it's a bit of a stretch, so can't really go any higher than that. Now moving on to R, which I already placed up here. Just a great letter. It totally transforms when it becomes an uppercase letter to a completely different symbol, which is one of the only letters that actually does that. It represents a very unique sound with a you rolling R or just a both those sounds are just almost exotic feeling, even though I know probably the rolling R feels more exotic because it's found in other languages than English, like Spanish. But even trying to ignore that, it just has that functional connotation in my mind of just being special. So ends up near the very top of B tier, just not special enough to reach the A tier though, because the A tier is only for really great symbols, really. Not perfect symbols, not the S tier perfect level, but still great symbols, and probably ones I wouldn't even try to change. Anything above B tier, there's really no point in revamping. They're all great, and they all work. So we have the 3 as the bottom of A tier. 3 is just the simpler and better version of 9. It's kind of like what 9 is trying to be, but it just bundled up 2 and A 3s together, and is a great number. Don't really have any complaints, but just not special enough to really be an S tier. It wouldn't make sense for 3 to be an S tier. Now we have the parentheses. I'm going to put them like this, actually, because again, the ending parenthesis, just like the ending bracket and brace is just a bit smoother and better looking, and it's what the bracket and brace really should have been. Like, we don't need these. We really don't. They're just horrible. I don't even want to think about them anymore. Just moving on from that. The parenthesis, it's smooth, it's simple, it looks good, great symbol, A tier. Now we have the plus. Again, just great. This is a perfect geometric symbol for what it actually represents. It's just a little bit too plain, especially in the math sphere, to really get an S tier. But for what it represents, for the adding things together, it kind of looks like, you're putting two lines together. It's great. I wouldn't change it, but it's just not good enough to really be placed any higher. But still great. Just not much it could have done. Now we have the 1. 1 is a great number. It's 1. I mean, it's really the first number we learn and use ever in our lives, because 0 is a bit too exotic and odd, and it's just simple but in a beautiful way. And again, I have no idea what this bottom and dash is. Nobody should write their ones like this. Again, complete psychopathic behavior if you do that. I better never talk to you or run into you if you're a person who unironically consistently writes your ones like this, if you're not trying to, I don't know, do some crazy stuff. 5. I would actually put it, I think a lot of people would put 5 below 1, but because my mind is so ingrained in the base 10 system that I've been like kind of admittedly indoctrinated into it, and 5 being half of that, it almost feels like another kind of base number. It feels special, and it's perfect mix. It's like a 2, but even better, with a mix of geometric and sharp corners and the flowy bottom half. It's always fun to write. It's always been there for you. It's like the best friend who is really nice and is always there for you. Not mean enough and not like rude enough to really be like a funny best friend that like you ultra enjoy being around at like every single waking moment of your life, but you're never disappointed when they show up. That's just 5 to me. I don't think that made any sense. I'm just gonna move on. Underscore. It does its job perfectly. It's really a replacement for the space bar, but because of so many like symbols, or not symbols, so many websites that block space in like usernames or whatever, it just has taken over that role perfectly. And what it does is it's out of the way. It just is on the bottom, and it does what it's supposed to do well. It just gets out of the way. And it's simple enough that it's easy to write on paper, it looks good, and it knows its place. It's not trying to do something it can't. It's not trying to be some special symbol like, I don't know, a trademark or some BS where it's like, oh, you can see me, I pop right out, but it just looks horrible. It knows its place is out of the way, and it fills that perfectly. So just simply beautiful. Don't have much more to say. T. Again, just a beautiful symbol. I have no clue what this is. I'm just going to imagine this stupidity that, I don't know, I'm still so mad at myself for picking these symbols. I'm genuinely rethinking doing this entire video because I picked these symbols, but I'm way too far in it now, so keep pushing through. I have no idea what this is. Moving on. T. Great symbol. That's all I really got to say. It's great. Now we got the integral sign. It is just a wacky and worse version of an S with these like balls on the bottom and top, and kind of long and a little bit weird and janky, but weird in a good way, and very respectable, very useful, and it brings this balance to specifically pre-calculus, because I feel like the balance disappears after pre-calc. It kind of ruins itself and implodes a little, but or Calc A, really, in the very beginning of calculus, that it's able to take a, like, irrational function, like natural log of x or something, and you can take irrational bounds to that function from, like, I don't know, e to, I don't know, something, like pi or whatever. This is not an actual integral that I don't know what I'm doing, but you can get really irrational bounds and a really irrational function, just some janky stuff, a big mess, and it looks all annoying. And you can get an answer that's like 7 or like a third, and it's just beautiful. It's just a ultimate simplifier. It ends up becoming way more tedious and annoying later, so it really cannot go in the S tier. But for the most part, It's very functional, looks pretty good, and great symbol, you know? Can't say much more. Mu, again, it has so many different purposes. It's used in multiple different ways. It represents friction, like mu k for kinetic friction, mu s for static friction, and then you've got a bunch of other mu symbols. The only one I can think of right now is mu naught, which is a constant in some epsilon equation. I forget. I think it's found in a few different places. And it looks great, pretty easy to write, ironically. You just kind of have to learn it, you know? Again, a learning curve, kind of similar to the alpha. But other than that, it's solid symbol. I don't really have much else to say. And now we've got the squiggly line. Not sure what its professional name is, but it just looks epic, man. It's great for faces, if you want to make some weird, like, confused faces. This is, like, the mouth, or, I don't know, if you want to make, like, a high or drunk face, I guess this also works as the mouth. And the fact that it's not really used for anything and doesn't really represent anything important almost brings it up in this case, that it's like just a silly symbol, that if you're ever feeling silly, you know, this is your symbol. Yep. That's a very bad explanation. A. A is just a great letter. First letter of the alphabet, which I think definitely boosts it. It also just feels like it belongs in A tier. Like A and A tier just feels right. Just kind of like F and F tier. Feels right because of how flipping horrible that is. Yeah. Yeah, that's basically it. I don't know why I talked more about F in A's ranking than I did about A itself, but A is great. Represents a pretty good sound. Also, or like, pretty solid. Yeah, that's about it. V. V again is nice and easy to write. It actually has this like unique mystique. Whenever it shows up, it feels special, but not in a like a pretentious way like Q. And again, is one of the best of the English alphabet letters. It's a unique sound, unique looking letter. Again, ignoring these top bits, I don't know why those are there. And just generally solid. Now we've got delta. It's what so many of the Greek letters are trying to do and just completely flop. Even these ones in B tier, even ones like here and sigma and tau and alpha and how did I forget this zeta? That's the name. Oh my goodness, how did I forget Zeta's name for a second there? It looks great, and its complexity actually improves its general like writability. Like that extra flowiness just is like it's really easy to just zip by, and that ends up bringing it up a significant amount because these Greek letters really have so much room for improvement. A lot of these could fly way up into the B and A tier if they just did what delta does good. Now we have the square root. It looks just great. It fits its job perfectly. I've never really had any troubles with the square root. It's never seemed annoying. From day one of writing it, it always worked. And very useful and very functional. Looks great. Now we've got psi or C, or I'm not exactly sure. I think it's psi. Again, it's just it's like a mix of upsilon and like the pipe. So it kind of ends up in between them. Like the pipe is still actually coming up later, and I will justify this. I think a lot of you hate on the pipe way too much. And it's, again, complex with that upsilon kind of dip, but in a good way this time. It feels almost propped up by this middle line, and it's a lot more functional and almost arguably, in my opinion, even though this makes no sense, easier to write than letters like upsilon, where it just whoop, and then you can just keep going. It like flows into each other, and it's just great. Don't have much more to say. Period. This is not the multiplication sign. This is the period. Period does everything it's supposed to do. It is necessary to mark the end of sentences, but you don't want to be tedious, so it literally went for the simplest job ever and was a dot, which is exactly what it needs to be. Exactly the simplest possible little dot at the very bottom of the sentence. Very clear. No one ever gets mixed up with period. I don't think anyone can really hate period. Period never did anything bad. It never messed anything up. So, has to be a top A tier option because it's not legendary. It's not S. It's no perfect symbol. But there's really no complaints. You can't really complain about period. Same with J. It's just great, other than, I don't know what this thing is. It's like a period on a little, like, whoop, and the whoop is really easy to write, and I don't think anyone really hates on J. It's very underused and underrated. It's one of the actually least used letters in the English alphabet, even though a lot of people don't realize it. And I think because of how good it is, no one thinks of it as one of the least used. Like, unless you already know that fact from previously, it just doesn't feel like that just because of how respected it is when it is used. And words like, I don't know, jump. That's the first word I could think of. I think that's what a lot of people think of. And it's just good. It's great. I don't think anyone really has any issues with J. I think that's pretty universally accepted as a great letter. We have the equal sign. Again, does its job perfectly, man. 2 lines of the same length, really easy to write, and it's legitimately the best symbol for showing equality that I could think of. No issues, near the top of A tier for that. Nothing legendary, nothing perfect, no S tier level quality, but cannot complain by any means. Now we have pi. It's just a legend in the math sphere. Even nobody who, like, not nobody, even everyone who doesn't know math, like, at all. You could be stuck at, like, a 2nd grade math level, like, practicing, I don't know, your beginning of what's 3 times 2 or something like that, and you'll still know and respect pi. Like, you don't even need to know its purpose. It's a million different places it pops up because everything has to do with circles, apparently, in math. And it's just great. It's probably the most original and epic constant of all time, and the symbol pairs with it perfectly, easy to write, and just complex enough to look good. Yeah, other than that, no real complaints. Z, the last letter in the alphabet, which again gives it a little bit of bonus points for that coolness, and just the way it looks, man, it's just, again, I don't know what these bottom and top are, just do, easy to write, looks great, represents Z, which is just such a fun letter. It's so great. Top of A tier, very legendary, very good. Now we've got Z, which is, or pronounced the same way, I think, as this is said, and it does great complexity in such a perfect way. It's like the ultimate mash between epsilon and a zeta in just the perfect way. It's just so flowy, so easy to write. It makes you feel like you're some calligraphy legend. Like, you don't even need, like, skip right over cursive, man. No one cares about cursive. This feels like a calligraphy version of a Greek letter, and it looks amazing, and at the same time, it's not even that hard to write, which is crazy for how cool it looks and how complicated it is. So symbols like this, they're just so rare to come by. It's just amazing. And now we have the last of the A tier symbols. We have 0. So yes, all of these symbols are S tier. I will get to explaining them because I think a lot of them are more controversial picks. 0, again, with that Z sound, man, it just fits with Z and Z, or Zai. This might be pronounced Zai, but I think it's pronounced Z. It's just such a unique symbol again. It did what O and Omicron just completely failed at, elongating a little, making it a little bit more unique, and just simple enough, and represents. The main reason it's so high up is representing nothing. It's such a unique idea and such a special thing that no one's ever thought of kind of before. Like, 0 came around and just, like, made it normal to think of nothing as something, and that legendary quality, really, you cannot put 0 anywhere below A tier. So, and I do believe it belongs right at the bottom of A tier. It's just not legendary enough, but it is so great. Perfect symbol to represent nothing as well. Again, no complaints. 8. The beginning and the bottom of S tier. These are the greatest symbols. Literally no way to improve them, I don't think. 8, it's so cool looking at the same time being so easy to write. It's got just the perfect balance, probably of arguably almost any symbol ever, of complexity and good lookingness and simplicity, that it has to be an S tier. It's really, I just don't have any complaints already. S tier, all these are basically perfect for what they actually represent. Now we have my most controversial pick, I think. The pipe or the vertical slash or whatever you want to call it. It's got a few different names. Now, I think so many people sleep on this symbol. It is the main reason I put it up here is its simple mystique, its complexity, but in a simple way. It's the perfect example of something that is rare enough that you don't really get to touch and really see it, but when it shows up, it just blends right in, and it's so perfectly respected and so perfectly representative of what it wants to be that it has to be an S tier. It's the ultimate divider, even though it's rarely used. Whenever you see a pipe, like, it's instantly respected as like, okay, this is splitting whatever on its left and whatever is on its right. You can never go through a pipe. You can kind of break through a colon and a parenthesis and not really respect its divisionness, but a pipe, man, it's the ultimate divider symbol. And it perfected simplicity again at the same time, just being one line. It's the ultimate line. And on top of all of what I've already said and just praising the pipe, its simplicity just pushes it over the edge into the S tier, into the ultimate symbols. Now we have the greatest number, 7. It looks great. It has done the geometric kind of look perfectly, and I don't know. There's just not much to be really said about 7, I guess. It's just done everything right that it has to. There's really nothing you can change about it. Even more legendary, arguably, than 8. And just basically the perfect number, the perfect digit. Just keep doing what you're doing, 7. Now we have S, the greatest letter. It represents such a cool sound, being S. It's so easy to write. It's used in so many different ways to even represent greatness. S tier is literally representing greatness. So on top of being cool, easy to write, looking great, and representing a cool sound, it already represents greatness. So it really cannot go anywhere lower than S tier. And it's, just the best letter. I think undeniably the best letter. Now we have the best number, infinity. It does what 8 did great, but even better somehow. That left to right look of being able to represent a never-ending connecting line. It's just the greatest symbol to represent infinity, to represent endless, whatever you're counting, endless numbers. And just that idea of endlessness is even more epic than I think the idea of zero and nothingness. That on top of being just a perfect symbol, looking great, being easy to write, what it represents on top of that is just so perfect that it ends up in the top 3 of the greatest symbols of all time. And now, the final battle for the number 1 spot. We have Phi and we have the $. The greatest symbol is Phi. The $. Does come in second, but I will start by explaining the $. The $, it's combined the pipe and the S, the 2 symbols that I absolutely love. It represents money. No one hates money. Money is great. Money's the greatest thing. Like, not ever, but it buys you so much stuff. It cannot buy everything, but it's just what it represents is amazing. It looks good. And really, the only littlest critique it has from being the perfect symbol, which Phi is the fact that you do need to move and pick up your pencil to then do the straight line on top of the S, even though it adds that, like, epicness, that adds that slash at the end through the S, and then you can keep writing. It makes its big impact. That pickup, the fact that it isn't able to make that pickup without that big impact slash, without a pickup, just barely misses it from the best symbol ever. But do not get it wrong, it still strongly deserves the praise and is the greatest money symbol of all time. The yen and the euro and especially the pound need to learn so much from the $. It has just done everything right that these have failed at. And now the greatest symbol, Phi. I might need to explain this one for a bit more than the $, but first of all, the only thing the $, messed up is to make that big impact at the end. You've got to pick up your pencil, And Phi, you don't need to do that. It's just a little swoop, and then bam, you can just make that impact. It looks just so cool. It's like splitting open an O, and but it's like a rounder, just more like fatter kind of looking O, a more impactful O. It's just so many leagues above this. It's like you can't even compare it to that, basically. And then what it represents, I need to go to that for a second. The golden ratio is oftentimes what, there's even a few other epic things that Phi is sometimes used for, but I'm going to focus on the golden ratio of being one of the most universal and naturally occurring ratios and constants in nature, and then also in just general human nature. We love it for its geometric origins. That it really is the defining characteristic of a symbol that unifies human perfectionism and nature's randomnessism, I don't know. And that blend and that connection, which basically seems impossible to make, all hidden behind one of the greatest looking symbols of all time, that it's also easy to write. There's no downside to it. It's perfect. It literally is perfect, and that's why it ends at the top of S tier. And that's it. I have just ranked 100 symbols. I hope you agree. You probably don't. Go complain in the comments now. I don't care. Goodbye.